Hey there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here with video one for the Shortcuts price list that will go out this Wednesday, 9 p.m. sharp Sydney time, as usual. That's the 16th of July. This is the genre list. So we got some jazz and funk and blues and soul. And some new things that I've never had before. Quite a few new things that I've never had before. If you would like to be on this price list, drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Well, this is maybe a little bit controversial as a place to start because, you could argue that this is one of the greatest rock records of all time. And here it is in our genre list. But I'm going to call this particular record jazz rock fusion. And it's one that I've been looking forward to putting up to you folks for a while because it's one of my favorite records and it's really grown on me pretty late in life. I wonder if you can guess it. So it's 1977. It is still, I think, quite a controversial record in some ways because of how it was constructed. This was an ever-evolving band of numerous session musicians, and many of those who contributed toward the recording sessions for this record never made the cut to the final cut. And it is a record that merges a jazz musician's ear with a cynic's worldview. It is, of course, Asia by Steely Dan. Now, this is the Japanese first press gatefold with those legendary notes by Steve. Is it Steve Diner, the president of ABC Records? This band, of course, the love child of Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. They've been going for almost a decade before Asia came out. In next week's list, I'm going to have the Japanese press of Pretzel Logic, and maybe between then and now, I will make up my mind as to which of those two is my favorite Steely Dan record. It's a really, really odd record in ways because it's incredibly sleek and sophisticated, and every beat and fill is nuanced beyond belief. It is this view into this upscale corner of 70s America. Tracks like Peg and Peg featuring this incredible kind of legendary solo by Steve Gadd, but it's Fagen, I think, who owns this record with his understanding of jazz chords and his phenomenally cryptic and literate lyrics, and the production. I mean, I think this Japanese first press is amongst one of the most impressive records I've ever heard. And so, it's legendary for a reason. You can spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars buying audiophile versions of Asia. And I keep coming back to this Japanese press. It's just delightful. Tim, you know who you are. He was here today and we did a listening test between a very expensive audiophile version, the 30th anniversary cut by Cisco Records, versus this Japanese press. And we mutually loved this Japanese press. It will become a reference record for you. It's just a delight. And you know what? This is a band that snuck up on me. I was never a fan. I turned 50 last year, and I would say I've only been a Steely Dan fan for the last 5 years. They have just not been on my radar, and I'm just they're just growing on me in the most amazing ways. And so I love it. The Japanese first press of Steely Dan's Asia. That's got the lyric sheet and all the goodness as well. It's just beautiful. What a kickoff record. Now, here's the first of my list of things that I've never had before. This was recorded in the late 50s, I think maybe 57 or 58, but wasn't released for 5 years. It is Kenny Burrell and John Coltrane, their self-titled record. As I said, released in 1963 on the, let's have a look at what the label is, on the New Jazz label. What a wonderful sleeve. Kenny Burrell on guitar, John Coltrane tenor saxophone, Tommy Flanagan on piano, Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb, the legendary rhythm section on bass and drums. Engineered by Rudy Van Gelder, even though it wasn't released on Blue Note. I think this is really quite understated for where Coltrane ended up. And I think Kenny Burrell is really quite sophisticated and erudite on this record. He really understands Coltrane, and it was a shame, I think, that they didn't make more music together. I think it's really quite effortless and graceful. There were a couple of tracks that I really liked. The opening track on side 2, Why Was I Born, I think is really lovely. You're really a celebration of their talents. And the one that followed with a very unusual name, Big Paul, I suspect that's a celebration of Paul Chambers. It's a really smoky late night feel to that particular track. And I don't know, I know this wasn't particularly well thought of when it was released, but I've been reading some of the more contemporary reviews, and it's really grown in reputation. I think because of that warmth and accessibility that Kenny Burrell brings to the mix. Of course, Kenny went on to become professor of music at, I think, a college in maybe it was a Californian college, and ran courses celebrating jazz. So this is a guy who really understood what he was doing and what Coltrane was, I think, even back then. And so, yeah, it's a really lovely thing. Kenny Burrell and John Coltrane. It's a beautiful, beautiful copy. There's the purple New Jazz label. One more jazz classic. I'm not going to spend a huge amount on this one because you all know how much I love it. It is the absolute classic Moanin' by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. Worth price of entry alone for that absolutely astonishing entrance by Lee Morgan on 19 years of age on trumpet on the opening and title track, Moanin'. I love it. The listening notes by Leonard Feather as well are just wonderful. An absolute titan of Blue Note Records. The extraordinary Art Blakey's Moanin'. Before I leave, I am going to just call out something that is really, really special. It is the opening track of side 2, the Drum Thunder Suite. It is absolutely fair to say that Art Blakey's drumming on that track is as thunderous as anything that John Bonham ever did. I'm telling you, it's absolutely fantastic. So controlled yet so explosive, and just wonderful sleeve as well. It's just a fantastic record. All right, that's enough jazz, although we are going to come back to jazz a little bit later in the list. We have a series of interesting funk and soul records now that I'm really excited to talk to you about. And you all know how much I love a good poster. And there's a good poster coming. In fact, it's coming next. This is something I've never had before. This is the Japanese first press from 1971 of the self-titled debut by Osibisa. I'm actually not sure if it's Osibisa or Osibisa. I'll probably veer between the two. This sleeve, drawn by Howard Dean, forever linked with Yes, and there's lizards and flying. What is that? A flying elephant or mastodon? I'm not quite sure which. Osibisa. And so why would this sleeve work? Well, it would work because this was a multinational group of African and Caribbean musicians that I think came together in London. There's some parallels with another band that I absolutely love called Demon Fuzz. This band leaned more to the African side of funk and rock and psychedelia. The main musician was the saxophonist from Ghana, Teddy Oze, and he really leaned into those West African rhythms, but with this lens of UK-based progressive rock. So it's really interesting. Where do you see this poster? I absolutely love it. This is Osibisa. Look at that. Can you see that? And what it says across the middle, it says, crisscross rhythms that explode with happiness. What a way to describe your band. Absolutely magnificent. One of the great Japanese posters, and we all know they love a great poster. This is a very unusual thing. I think that Osibisa were really quite popular around the world. Their first 5 or 6 albums, I think, all charted really well in the UK and the US. And you do see them here turning up in Australia. They're not very expensive, and this isn't very expensive either. But when you mix in those Santana-esque solos and those driving rhythms, I think it's a really interesting record. I was looking at some of the stack ranks that people have done of Osibisa, people who know them a lot more than me, and often this record, their debut, is top of the list. So there you have it. It's a big package too, proper hard cardboard gatefold. All right, we have our first white label promo of the night, and this is a really interesting one. Again, never had this before either. This is first time this has appeared on the shortcuts list, and this is Ice Cream Castle by The Time from 1984, and this is the white label Japanese promo. So I'm sure of it, some of you out there now who are going, what? You've got that? I know. This band, hand assembled by Prince from his kind of palace in Minneapolis in 1984, were both a real band and in some ways a performance art project. Led by his charismatic frontman here, Morris Day, and featuring really incredible musicians like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So this was kind of a pretty wild foil for Prince's just incredible ambition and artistry at the time. And so, yeah, this band came in, and so they recorded 6 tracks. It's pretty lean. Every one of them, though, was a hater. They go off. Jungle Love, The Bird, really tight electro funk classics, like kind of leaning right back to those early 70s heyday of James Brown, but with these wild synths, way more adventurous in many ways than Prince did. Although he took this sound and he went places with, Under the Cherry Moon, etc. So this really is a peacock strut of an album. There are some slower jams. So it's side two. Yeah, it's if the kid can't make you come, which is yes, very Princian. Is that if that's a word? Anyway, the Japanese white label promo first press of Ice Cream Castle by there it is, Ice Cream Castle by The Time. All right. Now, this is one of my favorite Aretha Franklin records, but I have not had it for a really long time. In fact, the last time I had this, it was a German pressing. It is the very unusual and therefore rather lovely. It is Hey Hey, Hey, Hey Now Hey, The Other Side of the Sky by Aretha Franklin, 1973. So I'm just going to pull out some of the things here. So on the classic Atlantic label, of course. So there you have this kind of weird upside down, kind of freaky cover with those folks on the back. Now, Aretha Franklin, at this time, the undisputed Queen of Soul, it is without question. But she really did take a pretty sharp left turn with this record. It's really ambitious, kind of genre-bending record. And the reason is that it was co-produced by Quincy Jones. And so what you get is Aretha coming off this really gospel fused era and leaning right into psychedelia and kind of jazz rhythms, and it's a really heady record. I know it completely confused people at the time. I read some of the contemporary reviews and people were like, what is Aretha doing? I think this completely stretches way beyond what she was doing on Muscle Shoals. You know, if you think about a ballad like Angel, it's a really dramatic and really ambitious kind of quiet storm song. And a lot of these tracks are quite cinematic. It really is not a typical Aretha album. And I think that's why I personally like it so much. I think it's fabulous. And so it is so underappreciated. I'm really happy to bring it to people's attention. I think this was Aretha making a bit of a statement about, you know, just what she could do. You know, she could do anything she wanted if she wanted to. And I think its uniqueness and its kind of relative rarity, I think, compared to some of the classics from the times, just makes me like it very much. So that's our psychedelic Aretha Franklin. Now, this is our second white label promo tonight, and this is a much less well-known record. This is Rose by Rose Bank. At the time that this was made, it was like a private press record. It was not a very popular record. It didn't make the charts. It was quite short-lived. It's a real Southern soul blaster, though. Really raw rhythm section. Now, I was doing a bit of research on the rhythm section. This rhythm section turned up in a few other bands at various times as well. I think that though it's a beautiful voice, really driving kind of Southern soul. If that kind of tickles your fancy, this is as rare and niche as it gets. But I think it's got something that's really likable and really, it's a fun record. Now, do your exploration on this one before pumping for it, but I think there'll be someone out there who will find that record an absolute treat. All right, third white label promo of the day, and I think the last, is this. This is a fun record. I've never had this before either. This is Hey Dixie by Dobie Gray. Now, Dobie Gray was a real kind of shapeshifter of a singer. He dabbled in pop, in soul, and in country. And so you might get a bit of a clue from the title of this, Hey Dixie. This is a record that absolutely straddles kind of what was going on in Muscle Shoals and what was going on in Nashville. So you've got this really fun, really well produced, and kind of sincere country soul record. It was a modest success, but I really think this is one of these early 70s records that's aged really well. It's really smooth, it's really heartfelt. It's quite restrained compared to like a Bobby Womack or a Tony Joe White, which is the type of vibe that you should be thinking about here. Yeah, it's really, really interesting and fun record. Now, this next one, I fully expect there to be absolute mayhem for who's going to get this record because it is that good and that unusual. This is the final soul record for tonight. It is The Two Sides of Sam Cooke. This is from 1961, and I'm just going to read. It actually describes it here for you. I'm just going to read it. Side 1, Gospel with the Soul Stirrers, who are one of the great gospel bands. And side 2 is just titled Pop. So you've got Sam Cooke, the two sides of Sam Cooke, gospel and pop. And so this is absolutely, this is such a cool record. If there's any way to define an artist in transition, this is the way you do it. You've kind of got a secular side and a gospel side. Only 16, You Fix Me. He's an untouchable singer. I mean, he's right up there with Aretha Franklin as, the greatest singer of all time, Ray Charles. It is such a testament to him and his black identity and his soulfulness and who he was as a person. A tragedy that he ended so soon, but this is a real prize, this record. The Two Sides of Sam Cooke. I've got a few more jazz records to go. I'm going to go through these ones pretty quickly because this video is running long. For those of you who know, this is Elvin Jones, who was part of John Coltrane's immense rhythm section. Elvin Jones and Richard Davis. This is called Heavy Sounds. This is probably, and Ivan, you know who you are as well. Ivan's part of the club. Loves this record. This is a really, really special discovery. This is a fantastic record, and it has some unique characteristics, including an acoustic kind of, guitar jazz record, where I think is it Ivan, you're going to have to correct me on this, but I think it's Elvin Jones who plays guitar, and it's called Elvin's Guitar Blues. Look at that sleeve. Absolutely fantastic record. The Heavy Sounds of Elvin Jones and Richard Davis. This is the only modern repress on tonight's list, but it is a really nice one. This is manufactured by Third Man Pressing in Detroit, Michigan, 180 gram audiophile quality vinyl. This is the Verve by Request series, and it is the modern sound of Betty Carter. Now, you will see here is $25, and it's still sealed. This album kind of veers between minimalist and really quite full on arranged and conducted goodness, and so it's a really, really fun record. Quite lush and really sounds great. Sealed $25. It's a steal. All right, there are 4 to go, and these are all records that these are have been on the list before, and I've got more copies for a reason. Ben Webster's Soulville with Obi. The warmest, most beautiful saxophone player, played with Duke Ellington. Really noticeable tenor, breathy, romantic. Reminds me of Ike Quebec, my personal favorite saxophone player. But this record has got guitar and piano and drums, and it caresses your ears. It is such a beautiful jazz ballad record. Really sounds great on your player, analog, warm. I put this on when people say and they go, so many people have gone, who's that? I want to get that. It is one of those records you hear and you love. I have some Chet Baker. Chet Baker sings and plays with Bud Shank, Russ Freeman, and the strings adding a lushness and depth to this record. Recorded pretty early for Chet Baker, 1955. It's really moody and kind of like a rainy day type of record, but really fun. And obviously you get to hear Chet's vocals as well, which is something, because he described in his autobiography, which I read a few years back off the back of a conversation with another club member, David, not his autobiography, a biography, that he used to turn down the lights and face the wall when he was singing to, quote, help him sing like the night. Magnificent. All right, I have in the shrink with still the Obi circle, the mighty Three Sounds on Blue Note. Three Sounds, Gene Harrison piano, Andrew Simpkins on bass, and Bill Dowdy on drums. The ultimate mellow groove merchants of Blue Note jazz. So laid back, really bluesy. I think that's the thing for this particular group. Really steeped in the blues. And so, again, a record that I find really accessible and really fun. And then finally, I have a really nice copy of Miles's Kind of Blue. No introduction necessary. All right, so we've had lots of jazz tonight with some really fun white label promos in the funk and soul and country soul mix. So if you would like to be on the price list for these records, just drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Please leave a comment, like, do all those things. It makes it worth my while. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks. Bye.